Thank you for listening and supporting the Daily Memphian. Sign up for one of our many free newsletters and breaking news alerts at dailymemphian.com/email to receive the latest local news stories impacting our community. Our weekly newsletters cover everything from sports to arts and culture, business, food, and more, along with daily updates of all the news we publish each day. Sign up or manage your email preferences at dailymemphian.com/email.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Tigers Podcast. I'm the football beat writer, Frank Bonner. I got my co-host, Stephen Johnson, here with me. A lot to talk about with the last two games for Memphis basketball. Them bouncing back with a big win over Alabama. Early signing day for football. So we'll talk about that. But before we get into all that, don't forget to check out our other podcasts. Jennifer Biggs hosts Sound Bites. Eric Barnes hosts The Sidebar. And our guys, Chris Harrington and Drew Hill, record the Grizzlies podcast every week. You can find all these on the Tigers podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and dailymemphian.com. So now that we got that out the way, let's go ahead and just hop on into it. First, what happened between Murray State and Alabama for basketball?
Well, apparently they had a players-only meeting on Monday. That was kind of started by DeAndre Williams and Alice Lomax, the seniors on the team. They kind of just called everybody together, and from what it sounds like, they just kind of hashed everything out. They expressed themselves. You know, our colleague John Martin has a story on the Daily Memphian right now where it kind of gives an even more of an in-depth look into what was said, what was expressed, and it seems like at least for one game. So of course you got to see what happens going forward. But at least for one game at that meeting, it seems like the team kind of came together and finally played as one instead of as talented individuals.
Yeah, what was the biggest – obviously that was one of the biggest takeaways, but from an X's and O's standpoint, what was the biggest difference in how they played Alabama versus how they played during that 4-game losing streak?
I just think they consistently stuck to the game plan. And I think Penny was making sure they were doing that. We saw like in different games, like you might see it for a half, you might see it for a stretch, but in terms of constantly going back to it and repeating the same action that was working, we haven't really seen them doing that. So I think they did they did a lot of high screen and rolls, letting DeAndre Williams kind of attack and find Jalen Duren for those easy dunks. He had plenty of them. And, you could hear the assistant coaches screaming on the sideline, pick and roll. So they saw that and they stuck to that. And I think for the first time, Memphis kind of found its identity of what it wants to do on each offense position, which is kind of play through the bigs and use that screen and roll to get them open looks. And
then what are your thoughts about, Imani Bates being in and out of the starting lineup and do you like that, him coming off the bench, or would you prefer him being a starter? Where do you stand on that?
I think he's going to continue to be a starter. He's just kind of hit this freshman wall, and we just got to remember he is supposed to be a junior in high school, 17 years old, and it's not even unheard of for some of these 5 stars, especially guys that reclassify and jump up to kind of struggle at least. So I think just right now, I'm not going to say he's not ready because we've seen him produce, against college opponents. I just think right now they got to find better ways to use him. He has to improve his shot selection. I think, how do I want to put this? Because he's so talented, because of his skill set, his size, at the level he was playing at, he can literally get any type of shot he wanted to. So he's still adjusting to the speed, the physicality of the defenders of college, I think. So, but Memphis is going to need him at the end of the season in order for them to reach their potential. They can be a tournament team with him not playing a big role, but if they're going to be Sweet 16, Elite 8, something greater than that, you need a guy like that to kind of be hitting his stride. So I think there's plenty of time for him to kind of get it together and kind of bring out of this slump.
Now, is it too much to say that this is probably the biggest win in Penny Hardaway's coaching career at this point?
Absolutely. It's the first time it's the first time Penny Hardaway has beaten a top 10 team. It's the first time Memphis has beaten a top 10 team since 2014. I remember that game. I was in college. So that was a long time ago. And just the fact that it was a 4-game losing streak, this is a top 10 opponent that just beat Gonzaga, just beat Houston, the team that is predicted to kind of beat you. So to come in and then you're the ones that are able to knock them off, I think that was huge. And, if they lose 5 in a row, even if the game is close or anything like that, I'm not sure what the tone of the city would have been. That would have been a real tough spot to be in, no matter how hard they play. So the fact that he picked it up, not only did it kind of get some positive vibes back to the team, they got another quad one win that could really be beneficial come March.
Yeah, and they showed this is the team that they can beat, but we can't say that this is the team that they are just off of one win. How big is this Tennessee matchup in terms of keeping this momentum going and then continuing to get on the right track?
I mean, it's imperative. I think for a lot of reasons. Once again, it's your tournament resume. You want another quad one win. You got bragging rights. The series is 1-1 right now in the last 3 years. There's a lot of drama, especially after the first game between Penny Hardaway and Rick Barnes. So right now, I don't believe the two teams are scheduled for future dates right now. So who knows when the next time these two teams could play? It could be a couple of years from now. So you want to go out with a bang, not only big picture, but small picture wise. You beat Tennessee, you beat Alabama, and all of a sudden you're back in the top 25. All your rankings, like your NCAA net rankings, are probably going to jump up too. So there's a lot on the lines. And the most important thing for me is, can they do what they do at home on the road? Because even with the loss to Murray State, they're, I believe, 5-1 at home this year. Again, with Penny Hardaway, they're almost winning 75 to 80% of their games at home. But when they go away from Memphis, go away from the Forum, neutral site or away, they haven't been the same team often enough. So I'm interested if they can bring that same effort from Tuesday up the road to Nashville.
Now, if they end up becoming a bubble team, so to speak, down in the playoffs or to the tournament, do you think that a win against an Alabama team and a possible win against Tennessee will put them over the hump if they get into a situation where they're on the border?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think if you beat these Alabama, or you already beat Alabama, if you beat Tennessee, I think if you just beat Houston once and you don't have, like, they're going to take some losses in conference play, but the key in conference play is not to lose to like a East Carolina, a Tulane, some of those other teams. And if you can go in there with Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, and if you can just get a split with Houston now, I don't think you have to beat them both times. It would be hard for me to see Memphis even be in the bubble team having those quality wins. We'll see what Virginia Tech can do, but St. Louis looks like they're going to be a pretty good team in the end. So I think right now, if you get Tennessee, and then for sure if you add Houston, then the Tigers shouldn't have to worry too much about being a bubble team as long as they're not losing games they're not supposed to.
Well, it looks like Memphis could be back on track in basketball. I know it was a gloomy couple of weeks for a lot of Memphis fans, and we'll see if they can keep this momentum going. Switching over to football a little bit, it was all looking for, toward the future for Wednesday. Memphis has officially signed 15 members to the 2022 class. And, looking at the breakdown, obviously Tevin Carter, a local kid, is one of the big highlights. Which is an interesting, perspective and going and looking at what Seth did. And, Tevin said it himself, and I talked to him on Wednesday. He was like, some people, he said, some people were even questioning if I was going to sign. And he said he just felt good to finally ink my name and, proves that I'm here for the city. So you got to be excited for the hometown kid to, play for his hometown school.
Big picture wise, so Ryan Silverfield last year, he signed the best class that Memphis has ever had since they started doing the recruiting rankings around 2000 or so. This year, I think he kind of follows it up with I think Josh White was very highly recruited, Tevin Carter, Sutton Smith, and things like that. So I guess what do you think he proved to this year as a recruiter?
Well, I think one thing that he proved as in terms of not just a recruiter, but an evaluator. He proved that he can get some quality in-state guys. I think he's got 4 signees that are in the state of Tennessee. Joshua White was big, but also looking at the JUCO guys that he got, right? I think he understands that not every freshman player you're going to sign is going to be ready to play in 2022, right? But some of these JUCO guys may, and you're losing a number of different veterans in different areas. I think one of the biggest JUCO signs for me was Anthony Landfear, and I hope I didn't butcher his last name. But him being a JUCO tight end, you're losing Sean Dykes, right? And so you need to replace that. And we all know Memphis, since Sean Dykes has been here, Memphis has loved to use his tight end. So I think getting a mixture of veterans and high school players shows that Ryan understands, or at least it looks like he understands how to manage a roster in terms of veteran leadership and so on.
Going towards National Signing Day, is Ryan expecting this class to get a lot bigger, or are they just going to kind of, just find a couple pieces here and there?
Well, so there are a couple commits that didn't sign on Wednesday. So, you expect, those couple of commits to sign. And then, he told us in the, in the press conference, he said that, there will be some names coming across that you will surprise you. He said, guys knows that he usually has something up his sleeve. So it sounds like he's still expected to get a few more guys that could be some surprises for Memphis fans. So we'll see what it looks like in the next couple of weeks. But looking how the roster shakes up, I think Ryan feels like he's in pretty good shape right now.
Is there one position group or one side of the ball from in this class that really, really impressed you?
The defensive line, right? Obviously, starting with Joshua White, their highest ranked recruit in the class. But they also got James. These last names are gonna kill me. But they got some quality big guys on the defensive line. Memphis's pass rush was iffy this year. It was really strong at the end of the year. Needed some work in the beginning of the year. And so I think the defensive line, they did some really good work in getting some quality big guys that could, I think, do some damage, sooner than later.
We had a little bit more than a week since the Hawaii Bowl, and I know we talk a lot about recruiting, but I guess what's just your initial expectation from what we can see? I know Calvin Austin opted out of the bowl game, which I think was kind of expected. So what do you think about this Tiger team and their chances in the Hawaii Bowl next week?
Yeah, I think that Calvin Austin opting out was really the only option there. As far as the rest of the players for the Hawaii Bowl, Ryan said he doesn't anticipate anybody else to opt out. But I think Memphis will get it done. I think they have to get it done. I think this is just as much of a must-win as the Tulane game was, with them being on the border of either a winning record or a losing record. The main key, obviously, is going to be turnovers, because you look at Hawaii, they're near the top in the country in takeaways, but they're in the bottom of the country in turnovers. And so, if you're Memphis, Hawaii is going to give you opportunities to get takeaways. The other side of that is, can the offense protect the ball to keep Hawaii's offense off the field? And then you've got Hawaii, their quarterback left in the transfer portal, their top running back left in the transfer portal. So I think all of those factors mixing in on the Hawaii team, I think Memphis should be able to go down there, have a little bit of fun in Hawaii, and handle business on the field.
All right, and I guess this last question, out of that receiver group outside of Sean Dykes, who do you think might have the biggest opportunity to kind of step up and build some momentum towards being that number one guy for next year, since we know Austin isn't going to be back?
Well, I think that, the same number that a lot of people talked about coming in was Devon Irie. Eddie Lewis, he kind of showed himself, in the later in the season. So I'm looking for him to kind of have a really good bowl game. And so I think with Calvin obviously not playing at all, I think he's one of those names that I think can benefit from seeing some more touches.
All right, well, we'll find out next week. We'll talk a little bit more about the bowl game, and we'll see if the Tigers can pick up another season-changing win. It's the last game. They got one more kind of a bye game before conference play. So we'll figure out the direction of both teams in the next coming weeks. Thanks, y'all, for joining us on the latest episode of the Daily Memphis Tigers podcast.
In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.